Welcome to Wedding Wednesdays. My name is Patrice Hunt, and this is my husband, Marcus Hunt. Thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday again. As we said last Wednesday, this Wednesday we're going to be talking about
expectations. You didn't do the symbol thing. Yeah, yeah.
This don't sound like symbols.
No.
Boom, boom,
All right.
Okay.
Expectations.
Right. Expectations.
Right.
So I decided to do my thing.
All right.
And look up definitions.
All right.
So the definition of expectation is a strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. And a simile for it is assumption, a thing that is accepted as true or as certain to happen without proof. So, you want me to get started?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so pretty much the only thing I did, I just wrote down some expectations, some realistic and unrealistic expectations, because I don't think it's anything wrong with having certain expectations in your marriage.
Okay.
Like, so the realistic or good or realistic expectations that I wrote down were an expectation of commitment, communication, honesty and authenticity, spending time together, affection, and compromise. Those are expectations that I think are...
You're expecting those things.
Yeah, I expect those out of my marriage. Like, I'm going into my marriage, and I think those are realistic things to expect.
Okay.
Well, how do you feel about that list?
No, that's fine. Hopefully you saw that before you got married.
Yeah,
okay.
But I'm saying,
Okay, I'm just saying. Hopefully you got that before you got to marriage, because expecting it after the fact if you've never seen it.
Yeah, that is a good thing. It's like I think I wrote that down. Okay, I kind of talk about that later.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, so those are the things like you should, it's okay to expect your spouse to be committed. Mm-hmm. It's okay to expect your spouse to have a level of communication with you, be affectionate with you, spend time with you, and compromise in the marriage.
Okay.
Some of the unrealistic expectations I wrote down is expecting your spouse to change. Mm-hmm. It's unrealistic to expect your spouse to conform to who you think they should be or change in some type of way.
Okay.
And so that's why I said I kind of talk about that later, because when you just said, I hope you saw that before in your marriage, mm-hmm. I feel like that goes with that. Like if your spouse was a certain way before you got married, and then you're like, oh, but once we get married, it's going to get better. Yeah. Like if she ain't washed dishes before you got married, and you're like, oh, but once we get married, she gonna wash dishes, and that means something to me.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
you shouldn't be surprised when it don't happen.
Expect dirty dishes.
I mean, they could be clean. You just don't wash them.
Nope, dishwasher.
You wash dishes though. You never use the dishwasher.
I don't like it.
No, how you talking about no dishwasher?
I wasn't talking about it. I don't like the dishwasher.
Okay. The next one is the expecting your spouse to be your everything. That's unrealistic.
Okay.
To put all your eggs in the basket of your spouse and expecting them to sustain you and fulfill you and make you feel worthy or complete and all of that. Like in Jerry Maguire, you complete me.
Yeah.
And then the thing is, my number 3 is it sounds like it is not, it sounds like it goes against my number 1. Because my number 1 was expecting your spouse to change. Mm-hmm. My number 3 is expecting your spouse never to change. But the thing is like the number 1 is expecting your spouse to conform to who you want them to be, is what I was talking about, like expecting them to change into who you want them to be. But my number 3 is I'm saying don't expect them to be the same way throughout the whole marriage. You're going to go through things, and we've talked about this on the podcast before. You're going to go through things. You're going to have experiences. You're going to grow and mature, and as you do, both people change, and so you can't expect your spouse to be the exact same person when you met them as they are 20 years in. I mean, we've been together 23 years, 24, 23 23 years, and so I met him when he was 18. So to think that he's going to be the same person, the exact same guy he was when he was 18, is unrealistic. And then number 4 was expecting to never disagree. So I think that's like fairy tale. And I don't know if guys come into marriage with that kind of belief, like, oh, we're never going to argue. We're never going to, guys don't.
No.
Maybe some women do. We're never going to argue. We're never going to get into disagreements. We're never going to have issues where everything's going to be sunshine and roses.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's an unrealistic expectation that I wrote down. And the last unrealistic expectation I wrote down is to solve all your problems or fix you. So sometimes, and I think it could be the opposite of way. Also, like you feel like you can fix yourself. It's like, oh, I got, I'm gonna get with him, and I'm gonna smooth out all his rough edges, or as soon as I get married, I'm gonna stop going to the club, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do that, and expecting that a ring on your finger is gonna change you fundamentally, and you're gonna be the same person you were before. It's just how you look at your marriage or how you walk into your marriage depends on what being married really changes.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Do you have anything to say about those good, realistic or unrealistic expectations? You can read my handwriting.
Yeah, I can look at it a little bit. No, I don't have anything to add. I see where you're going.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, something else I also wrote is that we can put unrealistic expectations on ourselves as husbands and wives.
Yeah.
What were you about to say?
Now, I was, again, that's a me thing, not necessarily saying every man, but as men, I know we protect and provide.
Yeah.
That's I'll say that's the baseline of it. And as long as that's healthy, if you will, if you're looking at that from a standpoint of, in a godly sense,
looking at protecting and providing.
Not from a selfish standpoint, because the more you make it about yourself, then the less, focus or concentration it is on family, on marriage, things of that nature. Is, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I need to protect, I need to provide, and then where's God in it?
Yeah.
So.
And also, like, I think that sometimes with especially the providing aspect of it, sometimes it could be like a way to boast.
Yeah, it is.
I think some men can look at it as like they do for their family, not, because I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart, or I'm doing this because I love my family and I love my wife, or I'm doing this because I really truly want to provide and protect my family. But it's like I'm doing this and I'm like, hey, look what I just did for my wife. Look what I just did for my kids. Look and then you want to come out as, and I think that women do it as well.
Yeah.
Like they want to be seen a certain way, seen as the perfect wife, seen as the perfect mom. And so they like bend over backwards to meet all these inflicted expectations. Like, I think that this is what a perfect wife should be, so this is what I'm gonna do. I think this is what a perfect husband should be, so this is how I'm gonna act. And then I want people to see me as that.
Yeah, I get that. And then the other part too, from the guy's standpoint, is the expectation of the the response, I would say, because I do those things, because I protect, because I provide, because I am everything in my eyes. I'm everything to my family. I expect you guys to respond this way. I want you guys to cherish me. I want you guys to, whatever I say goes, that kind of thing. I want you to be team me, and I think that, gets lost in a lot of the conversations that I have. Man, I'm doing all of this and she won't even do this.
So it's like the expectation is if I hold up my end of the bargain, then you need to hold up your end of the bargain.
But what's your end?
Yeah, no, I'm saying that's what you're saying the expectation is.
Yeah.
But maybe without expressing that.
Yeah, the communication part is on the other side. Without communicating, how you view something, and then listening to see how somebody else view it. And then if there's a common ground, let's identify it, let's move forward. But to just say, and again, a lot of it, I feel like you're expressing it amongst other men because that's your safe space, but you haven't expressed that to your spouse. And so the fact that you haven't done that, you bring it to other men, and more often than not, you're gonna co-sign that, because it's like, well, yeah, I'm doing that too, man. You know what? I came home and I was hungry, and she hadn't had nothing to cook, or I wanted some peace and quiet. I had been working all day, or I've been doing this, and she couldn't even keep the kids away from me, or do this or do that. And it's very unrealistic to put that kind of pressure, if you will, on everybody else in your circumstances or in that situation, because you haven't communicated anything.
Yeah.
And so I just add that part of it, to it. I don't, like I say, if that's something that you have communicated and you guys are working in that or working on that, then okay. If somebody's coming up short, or you feel, but again, it's still a conversation.
Yeah. Because I agree. I think like the example you gave, as far as like, I had a hard day at work and I needed a minute just to decompress, and she couldn't even keep the kids away from me. It's like, well, did you communicate that? Because sometimes, I've definitely been guilty of this, where I am looking at situations from my perspective and not necessarily your perspective. And so whenever we look at situations from our own perspective, it makes it easy for us to be on our own side, on our own team, and be like, oh yeah, you're right. They was wrong for that. They did that wrong, and they should have did this and all of that. But what happens is we don't account. And when I do that, I don't account for how something could have affected you, or any outside things that you may have going on that are affecting like how you respond, what you're thinking, what you're doing, and things like that.
Right.
And I just automatically put my guard up, because it's like, well, he didn't do this and I wanted him to do that. But one, like you said, I didn't communicate it. Two, it was one, I guess it was an expectation that was not communicated. And then two, instead of bringing it to you, I just put, had, like, I think we talked about this before when we were talking about communication. I had this like whole conversation in my mind about how things are supposed to go and what you're going to say. And then I just run with it, and I think that a lot of people do that. Well, I don't know. I know I've done that before. I don't know if I might just be crazy, but I know that, I've done that before, where it's like, oh, I see how things are affecting me, but instead of just trying to see where you're coming from or bringing it up to you, I just be like, he sucks. Or whatever, some version of that. Okay. Do you have anything else to say about any of the unrealistic or realistic expectations?
No, I'm good.
Do you have any expectations you want to bring forth?
I have hopeful expectations, but again, that is not dealing with you.
No, I'm talking about on like for this aspect.
Hopeful expectations.
But I'm giving you an end, dude. I'm giving you an end, and you not taking it.
No, I'm not going to take it.
Okay, well then that's fine. Because you always want to talk about
what?
But I give him I give him because
it's not
a platform.
It's not the same. I just got to spring in there. Talking about something totally different, and then I go to the bedroom. So.
It's like I'm giving you I'm giving you a.
Again, that's communication as well.
About the expectations
about having sex.
And how often and all of that.
Yeah. Everything. What you like.
Yeah.
What you don't like. So communication.
If you can't communicate with somebody, you shouldn't be having sex with them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Now you do.
I agree with that. I mean, you're communicating. It might be
23 years into this relationship, you agree with that.
No.
Prior to this relationship.
I agree with it. I mean, it was...
He was 18, 17.
Brutally 18. Honest, but I agree with it.
Yeah. Okay. So the next thing I wrote down was how to manage expectations. So do you have anything else to say before we move on to that? How to manage expectations in your marriage?
No.
Okay. No. So I wrote down 5 ways to manage expectations in your marriage. And the first thing I wrote down was don't compare.
Okay.
The reason I thought that was important is because a lot of times we look at what other people are doing and where they're going and how they're living their life, and then we're like envious.
Yeah.
And then we're like, well, why can't we have it like that? And then we have that expectation of, or, even before we get married, we see how our parents or our friends do life, and we expect it to be the same, our life and the way we do it to be the same.
Yeah.
And that's unrealistic because different people have different situations. They have different dynamics within the two of them.
Yeah.
They have different finances, different upbringings, different all of these things.
Just
different motives. Everything is different.
Yeah.
You can have two people raised in the same household by the same parents, and they could choose to do different things two totally different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can't put those parameters. You can't use somebody else's relationship as a parameter for yours.
Right.
So I think that a lot of times when we get on the socials, to sound like an old lady, when we get on the socials and we see this, oh, he bought her flowers, or oh, she surprised him with a trip to wherever, or whatever the case may be, we are like, oh, I wish. And then, well, why don't you? And then you putting that envious jealousy, you using that as a way to motivate you into expectations into your marriage, and that's not right.
Yeah, you're trying to manipulate the situation, and that's all it is.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. So I don't
must
think
be nice.
Yeah. I don't think it's anything wrong with appreciating what somebody else does for somebody else, but that's just what they do. Yeah. That ain't got nothing to do with your relationship.
Yeah.
So that's my number one thing. Don't compare, because I think like the saying goes, comparison is the thief of life or the thief of joy.
Okay.
Something like that.
Sure.
It's the thief of something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I feel like don't compare is number one. Do you have anything to say about comparison or comparing?
No, you said it all. I agree with that. It's easy to get caught up, especially when you're struggling.
Yeah.
Where you feel like you're weak, because where you're weak or where you're struggling at, you're looking at what I don't have. And that's the main thing. You're looking for that validation, or you're looking for that specific thing when you're looking outward. And so that's what you see. You see that person going on trips. You see this family buying this or buying that, or this husband buying this or that for his wife or for his kids. And it's just, man, I want to be doing it for my family, and like, why can't I do that? And then you get caught up, and then now jealousy sets in, and now you're starting to envy that. And then, so basically you're giving birth to sin when you're doing all of that. And so what I'm saying is, it's easy to get caught up in it because you're always looking at, I want to do better. And you start to look at someone else, but you don't know what that person is going through to be able to do that. Man, they done bought this new car, man, what are they doing? How much the money they're making, that kind of thing. And you don't know if they're barely keeping the lights on, they're trying to give off this, fake persona. And
you don't know if they're like working so much that it's to the detriment of their
you just never
family
know.
Or whatever the case may be. So I think that's why it's important not to compare, because everybody's situation is different.
Yeah.
And this comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
The second one I wrote is, see your spouse as a person, not just as your wife or not just as your husband.
Okay.
So like saying that, like letting their value be in them as a person, not their value in who they are to you.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of times when the value is in who they are, like if your value to me is that you're my husband and you protect me and provide for me, if we have a situation where you cannot provide, then if that's the only value I have, then that's an issue, then it's an issue with that.
Okay.
But if I see you as a person and I see you holistically and I love you holistically, not for just who you are to me, how you are, I think it's easier that to make sure that those expectations, those unrealistic expectations don't creep in.
Okay.
If I constantly see you as a person, because we're two individuals, that I wrote down the Matthew 19:5. The man shall leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Once we become one flesh, we're in it together.
Yeah.
So I can't just look at you for who you are to me, and like vice versa, you can't just look at me it's who I am to you. I can't just be the mother of your children or just your wife. It's other things, it's like, just like it's dreams and things that you have, aspirations that you have.
Right.
And if I just put you in a box of just my husband, then I'm negating all of those other things that God has put into you, to be the man that he created you to be.
I think I agree, but I think that's also the individual. I don't think that any dream or um, want or whatever it may be, if your dream was to be, a successful author, um, me, construction, business, successful business. I think there's room for that within the confines of the marriage,
right?
As
that's
long
support.
As yeah, but
yeah, but I'm saying, but if I want to be a successful author, but you like, well, I can understand you want to be a successful author, but like, who gonna clean up this house? And who gonna fix my food? And who gonna wash my clothes?
But that's what I'm saying.
Who gonna do this? And who gonna do that?
That's the individual.
You can't do all that,
Yeah.
and then be,
Yeah, I think that's the individual, and then I think that's a lack of communication in that. So that's what I'm saying.
Communication up front.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, you can go ahead and do all that, but I got food in there. As soon as that plate done, hey, you go ahead and be successful. No, I just think that's the conversation piece of it that has to be had. You have to understand what drives a person. Yeah, I view you as my wife. I view you as the woman that I fell in love with. That you had our kids, so I view you as the mother of my child, of our children, and so. All of that is true, but there's more to you than just that.
Yeah, I'm not just
you're
wife,
not just that.
The mother of your children.
And so, like, now that you're stepping more into the light of being obedient to Christ and doing what He's putting on your heart to do. Well, that's a whole different dynamic. That okay, now, well, let's see where this goes. Let's see what's developing from this. So, okay, we have that aspect of it now. Now we also have mom. We also have wife. How do we still tie everything together? How do we still be, close? How do we still be that family? And there's nothing wrong with change.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with change. Right. But again, I just think we have to communicate it all. Mm-hmm. And doing that, communicating it, I think, if you're with the right person, then, there will be a common ground. There'll be some understanding. There will be some support. There will be some compromise that will take place to allow for, let's see if this dream can be realized. Mm-hmm. And then not putting an expectation on, well, how long this should be, that kind of thing. And it's just, you're in it with them. Yeah. And not just looking back, dreading the fact that they're doing something or that, it's not panning out how I wanted to in the time frame that I wanted to. And I could have been doing it, again, now, instead of looking at the Joneses, envying them, now you have resentment for it. It's the same thing now, but it's just in a negative.
You went from envy to resentment.
Yeah, and you're doing that in-house with your spouse. And
so instead of the envy, is what you were saying. So like instead of like envying that person, now you're having resentment. Towards your spouse.
Towards your spouse, under your roof, y'all's roof. And that's discourse in the home. Now you have a divide, and now I'm not talking to you, or now I'm being short with you. Now I'm, being funny with the kids or whatever, just because of that bad expectation of what I thought what was going to happen. We didn't discuss it. We didn't even, plan from a standpoint of this could be a possibility. Right. If this were to happen, then these things will happen. Okay, we all play the game of what if I win the lottery? If I win the lottery, I'm going to do all of these things. Yeah, it's great.
I don't never play the lottery, though.
Yeah,
I'm the worst person to play that game, because in my head, I'll be like, if I win the lottery, I'm going to take this trip and I'm going to go there. Mm-hmm. Ain't spent a dime on the lottery.
You can't win if you don't play.
I know. So I will never win, but I'm always in my head, if I win the lottery.
But the same thing in this situation. I mean, you're not going to have something resolved if you never have the conversation. So.
If you don't communicate. No. Okay, my third one is be open and honest as you express your wants and needs. Mm-hmm. So, like, I'm trying to think of an example for this. No.
Okay.
I mean, you can go ahead.
No, that's you. That's all. It's your go. I was trying to give you an open
I don't
to
need
talk about them.
So like, let's say that. Okay, so Marcus started making these chicken wings, right? He started making these chicken wings.
World famous.
Marcus started making these world famous chicken wings.
There we go. I was gonna say that was what people in my life say.
The kids.
Yes,
the kids.
that's all it counts. That's all it counts.
But
hold up. You had it.
They're good.
All right, you came off like they weren't the best.
They're good.
I think so.
They're good. So that's like his real, like, Marcus can barbecue. He fry fish, things like that. Like outside, he do outside cooking. That's really his, like, one thing that his, dipping his toe into the inside cooking. He found the recipe online and he was like, babe, I want to try this. You give me these ingredients. I was like, yes. Immediately, yes. But like, if he would have been like, oh, well, and I mean, you did give really good feedback about it. But if your expectation was like, I am going to cook this meal like this tonight, Patrice don't have to cook because I'm gonna cook this meal. I found it online. She got all the stuff I needed, and now I'm gonna go for it and I'm gonna cook this meal. And then the meal was cooked, and then everybody ate, and then went upstairs and said nothing. And then you like get upset and like, well, I mean, I worked hard. I cooked that meal. Ain't nobody say nothing. They ain't say whether it was good or not. And like, so then like you had an expectation of getting accolades or feedback. But everybody just was like, all right, that was a meal. Yeah. Peace out. That could cause a little discord.
Yeah, you feel
another way, but another way that could be handled would be like, hey, daddy made all this chicken, daddy chicken good, huh? Like, just give them that in. You did it. No. You didn't. They just said it was good. Just did.
So see, that's different.
But they did say it was good. But I'm just saying, like, that part. I mean, it was kind of a small way to. I just used a small.
I see what you're doing, but you picked the wrong thing.
Because the chicken.
I'm talking about, man. You picked the wrong thing. The kids. First way I knew that they loved it was the fact that all I saw was the top of their head. They was down in their plate like this. They didn't say nothing. Deuce didn't get up and play. Nobody was running around. And then they gave me hugs. I was like, man, I'm good. So, yeah, I get where you were going. We just probably shouldn't have used the chicken.
Yeah. The chicken was good.
Yeah.
It is good because he cooks it every, like, 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
As they requested, because they'd be like, can we have daddy's chicken tonight? And it's like, let me check. I'm sure he'll be up to cooking it. But yeah, so, but what I'm saying is, like, if there is something, like, if I, like, let's say, the bathroom needs to be painted, like in that spot that I got the makeup on the wall. So let's say I just was like, oh, I'm gonna take initiative and I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna paint that spot.
Okay.
And I want you to come in and be like, oh, babe, you painted that spot. You did a good job.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And I know that that's what I expect. I should probably be like, oh, babe, look, I painted this wall. Don't it look so nice? Which I do that, though. Yeah. Because I want my accolades. He probably fine without getting them. I want them. I want to be like, look what I did. Doesn't it look good?
Yes.
And I want you to say, yes, babe, it looks so good.
And then when you don't get that, you feel some kind of way.
I do feel some kind of way. And so
I come in and I look at it. That's the color you wanted? See the look.
I ain't painted nothing yet.
See that?
And the look was like,
that's what you want?
You go paint it then.
That's it.
But yeah, so I just think it's important to be open and honest as you express your wants and needs. Because there's some things that, we have expectations of that are not bad in and of themselves. But if we have expectations that we are not expressing to our spouse, and like you said, sexually, like if there are things, we're going to broach this topic. Oh my goodness.
Oh, yes.
If there are things, Eddie, fast forward. If there are things that you enjoy and you like in the bedroom, I think that you should talk to your spouse about that and let them know that.
We do an example?
No.
Oh, okay.
We are not doing it.
All right.
But and also vice versa, if there are things that you don't enjoy and you don't like, you need to express that to your spouse as well. And then also, like with frequency, if there is an expectation in your mind that this is how often we should, or this is how often I would like, but let it be a realistic expectation, because people live. But like, just like you said, communicate. Communicate your expectations, your desires, your wants, and your needs. Because if you don't communicate it, but you're expecting them to know that, then they're never going to get fulfilled, and then you're going to be resentful about them not being fulfilled.
Right.
And once you have that conversation, if your partner is not physically or emotionally able to meet you exactly where you desire them to, then maybe you can do what number 5 was in my expectation, and the realistic expectation, which is compromise. You can come to an agreement with, what?
Yeah. Here we go. What's the compromise? Give me an example.
No.
I'm just saying. Everyone want to know how you compromise. So give an example. How do you compromise?
Every marriage is different.
Okay.
So you talk to your spouse and y'all figure out how to compromise.
Okay. All right.
In those areas. Moving right along.
Yeah. Skated right past.
I did. Okay. Show respect and compassion. Is number 4 as a way to manage expectations. Just respect your spouse. And I think that kind of also goes along with seeing your spouse as a person, not just your husband and your wife, like just respecting them for who they are and showing compassion for where they are in life. Every season of life is different. So there are going to be some seasons in life where things flow easier than others. There are going to be some seasons of life where things are tougher. And so we have to just really be compassionate with one another and be respectful of the seasons that they're in, because we could be going through life together, but be in 2 completely different seasons, because God could be working on me in an area that he's not necessarily working on Marcus. And then, we're doing life together every day, but we're each having our own things going on with God. And so if it's something in me that God is pruning or developing or something like that, and I'm trying to work through that, it's nice to have the respect and the compassion from my spouse, and vice versa.
Understood.
Do you have anything else?
No, we're good.
And the last one is to be more appreciative than expectant.
Okay.
So the last way to manage expectations in your marriage is to be more appreciative than expectant. So instead of expecting, like always expecting, just be appreciative of who your spouse is and what they already do.
Right.
Because I think that goes a long way. I think that when you appreciate your spouse for who they are and what they do and how they function in your household and in your marriage, it will also open up the door for them to want to do more.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I agree. That's how I feel, honestly. It's I try to do whatever I can for the family. I'm big on family. And when you have that sense of appreciation, it makes me want to do more, that kind of thing. And so I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Ready.
Do you have anything else to share or to say?
No. No. We're good.
We good? We tied that up and put it in a little bow?
We're good.
Thank you guys so much for joining us this Wednesday. And hopefully we'll see you next Wednesday. We'll see. Thank you for joining us for Wedding Wednesdays. Bye.